All right. Welcome to the Rise Up Podcast. I'm your host, Jonah Mitchell. And on this show, I do my best to help you rise up to potential by getting out of your own way and working through what goes on in between your ears to make this process a lot simpler, and stop making it harder than it needs to be for you because it's already hard enough to see change on our body and our lives. And ultimately, um, we can be our own worst enemies in multiple ways. So the goal is, if you're that person who is all or nothing, who has a hard time sticking with it, it doesn't go when it doesn't go their way, you are my person, and I'm here to help you to the best of my ability, especially on a short episode like this today, because I want this to be a quick reminder for wherever you're at, whatever you have going on, whatever you're trying to accomplish. I want you to remember one thing in this short episode, and I'm going to elaborate on why it's so important to truly let these things sink in, let these things solidify in your life, let these thoughts and perspectives solidify in your life. Really, it's a shift of one perspective, and all it comes back to, when we remember, we're supposed to make mistakes, we're supposed to mess up, and we're supposed to fail. We're supposed to. That's how we learn. Like, going back to, I mean, if you listen to my last episode, I talked about learning how to walk, learning how to ride a bike, right? We didn't just get on a bike and ride like confidently and perfectly. We didn't just stand up the second we were born and run around the hospital. Every time we took a step or we got on the bike and we fell, that was a failure. That was a mess up. Those things happened, and we learned every single time how to get better, how to show up again and again and again until we acquire the skill. Now you don't think about walking. Now you don't think about riding a bike, right? Ultimately, this is a very uh, easy thing to forget when it comes to trying to change your body, feel more comfortable in your body, feel more confident in yourself. Because ultimately, there's a lot of people out there. I mean, two-thirds of the population is overweight or obese. There's a lot of people who've tried and have not succeeded, and they've done multiple things throughout the vast majority of their lives, and nothing has really stuck because a lot of the times they don't take their failures as an opportunity to learn or grow. They take the failure as a personal statement of who they are, and therefore they and thereafter we. I don't want to say they, as like I'm not one of those people. I definitely fail. I definitely make mistakes on a regular basis. Um, and if we don't remember what it was like when we were failing as children, literally, like, failing means lack of success. Like, but it doesn't mean an end to success. There should be another continued description of, or a definition of, failure: lack of success yet. And it's not easy to feel like a failure, especially when we have a long history of things not going the way that we wanted to. But if we can learn to take those failures, acknowledge how uncomfortable, how frustrating, how discouraging they are, and we say, okay, I technically failed at this thing. I failed at this diet. I failed at this program. I failed at this whatever. What can I learn from it? How can I move forward? The reason it's so hard to have that conversation is because when you feel like a failure, your brain hates it, right? We have such a negative relationship with it. We hate it so much that any form of discomfort, our brain wants to run away from and wants to hide from it. And so if we distract, we limit the feelings. When in reality, we're just kind of pushing them off to the side. It's a survival mechanism. Our brain wants to survive any discomfort, any stressors. And the unfortunate truth about failing is that avoiding it, distracting ourselves from it, doesn't make it go away. It lives in our head over and over and over again. And maybe we'll tell ourselves, hey, like, maybe it's like, okay, it's not worth it. It's not worth doing it anymore. I don't care anymore. And that's oftentimes not true, because if you truly didn't care, like, say, for example, you're trying to diet to lose weight and you truly didn't care, then there wouldn't be days where you would try to hide your body, where you wouldn't face a mirror, where you wouldn't care what people thought of you in public. And it's not a bad thing if you do all those things. Like, there's nothing wrong with being uncomfortable, but tell yourself the truth. Seriously, tell yourself the truth. If you do care, acknowledge that you care. Acknowledge that it sucks to fail. but also acknowledge that failure is not absolute. Failure is a temporary stage in the process of getting to a successful journey or whatever you're trying to accomplish. It may not go the way you think it's supposed to go. It may not go the way you think it's supposed to go. Because that's what a lot of us are doing. We think it's supposed to go a certain way based off of when we are younger, based off of different circumstances in our lives. We have a general idea of what it takes to see results, but most of us have no idea. We have assumptions, we have guesses based off of who we look at online, who we see around us, and we assume that we have to be exactly like those people, but we don't. And that's why you fail. That's why we fail, because we try things that other people are doing and we try to take someone else's principles and we try to be like them. And the funny thing is, all of us humans are inherently stubborn. And when we try to do things that genuinely are not who we align with, who we resonate with, deep down there's going to be some resentment. There's going to be some circumstances or situations that you're not going to want to stick with those guidelines or stick with those parameters, or there's going to be certain things you're not willing to sacrifice. And over time, even with the results you may create from something someone has given you or some assumption you made, if it doesn't actually give you the tools to live your life the way that you want to, you're going to find a reason to not stick with it, to feel like a failure. But that's a good thing, because every time you do something that doesn't make your life easier, it makes it harder. Yeah, you may create results, but you can't have a food group. You can't go out with your friends or your family. You can't do things that genuinely bring you happiness. You're going to find a reason to rebel against those things. And you're going to find a reason to not stick with it because it's not who you are. It's not it's not what you want. So when you do those things and it's like, okay, that didn't work for me. I failed at that way. Congratulations. You failed and cross something off the list. Like, this does not make my life easier. It makes my life harder. I was just talking to a woman yesterday, and she is an all or nothing person, wants everything to go perfectly. Well, wants to try and make everything go perfectly, but her life is stressful and it's chaotic and it's busy. And ultimately, we no one can control everything in our lives. And we want to control our body weight. We want to control our health. But ultimately, we only have influence over our body weight. So when our life is super crazy, chaotic, and busy, and we're doing the best that we can, and we think we're supposed to see more results, and we don't, well, it's like, oh, well, crap. Why did I even try? Well, we try because we're trying to live comfortably in our body again, or for the first time in our lives. If we haven't achieved that yet, ultimately all we have to do is keep trying, but it's difficult. It's so difficult to do those things because when you're in the moment, when you're feeling like a failure, your brain's trying to run away from it. It's not easy. You're trying, it comes in waves of you're okay, then you're not okay, and then you don't know how to really deal with it. So it's easier to put it on the back burner, to suppress it down. But really, when we cross those things off the list and say, that didn't work for me, that didn't align with me, we get a little bit closer to finding what actually does. There is only one way to lose weight. That's to be in a calorie deficit, yes. But that does not mean everyone has to do the same thing to create a calorie deficit. That does not mean that you have to be like someone else or try to fit your life around something that you only think and you're only assuming has to go away that you think it does. Because a lot of times it could be different. Like I was saying, the woman I talked to yesterday, because of her life super crazy and busy, she can control 2 out of her 3 meals every day. And then her third meal, she did the best she could. She tried to make it at match as close as she could to portions that she was weighing in her breakfast and her lunch. And that she did that because she accepted that, hey, she doesn't have the bandwidth to do it all right now, but she's at least doing something. And in that, she made progress. She saw about a couple pounds lost in 6 weeks. And ultimately she was pretty discouraged. She's like, wow, I wanted to see more. I wanted more results. And now I'm starting to get into that headspace of, well, it didn't work. It didn't work out the way that I hoped it did or the way I thought it was supposed to. So I'm starting to creep in and do things and go back to eating whatever I want or just really not thinking about my food as much. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can do that. But ultimately, did you do the best you could with what you had during that time? She would say yes. Great. Did you control every single thing 100% of 100% of the time? She said no. Great. It's not, and then I had to explain to her, I'm not asking her to take her busy life and add 12 other different things to make her life harder. I'm asking her to acknowledge the fact that she did the best she could with what she had. She made decisions to help her stay consistent. And even though she didn't see as much progress as she had hoped to see, she's still going in the right direction. And if she can look at it right now, if she can catch it right now and say, at least I'm going in the right direction. I didn't fail. I'm going in the right direction. I didn't see the results that I hoped I would see. But if I keep going at this pace, at this trajectory, I will eventually get to my goals. I will get there. Yes, I failed. I lacked success in this process. But in all reality, if you're going in the right direction, is it actually a failure? No. It just didn't go the way that you expected. It didn't go the way, it didn't meet your expectations. So therefore, you feel like you failed. But that's, again, the way that you think it's supposed to go. There may be a different path. It may have to go slower than you would like it to. But if you just keep going, if you keep going in the right direction, you'll get there. But if you choose to stop, if you choose to take that discouragement and say it doesn't matter anymore, I only lost a couple pounds, I don't care anymore. Now you're going to put that you're going to say I don't care, and deep down you really are going to care, but you're going to get some temporary relief from eating whatever you want, and then things are going to get worse. You're going to gain more weight. It's going to be a lot harder if we let ourselves go down that path. But if we take that perceived failure, I'm air quoting, because just because it doesn't go the way that you think doesn't mean you failed. It may just have to go differently. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because ultimately you deserve to have what you want. You do. It just may come in a different way than you think. And just because you failed doesn't mean you're a loser, doesn't mean that you are inherently a failure. You learned something. This certain way that I thought it was supposed to work didn't go the way that I expected. It's hard to feel that emotion. It's hard to take that and look at it logically without the emotion. And then zoom out and say, am I going in the right direction towards my ultimate goal? Because if I am, and I'm able to stick with it, maybe the progress isn't as fast as I'd like it to be. But if I just keep going at a pace that is appropriate for me, that allows me to have the wiggle room that I want, but also still see results over time, what's wrong with that? I'll tell you what's wrong with that. If you're listening and you're like, well, what? I don't know. But what's wrong with it is it may not fit the way that you think it's supposed to. That's what it comes back to. We have a hard time accepting that it may be slower because we think it's supposed to go faster, but it might not for you. This doesn't just involve weight loss. It involves a lot of things in your life. Sometimes things will not go the way that you think they're supposed to go. And that's an opportunity for you to take a step back, have the emotion, whatever it is, the discouragement, the frustration, whatever, and acknowledge, am I still on the path though? Am I going in the right direction? If I am, then cool. This may look differently than I thought it was supposed to. But as long as I keep going, I will influence the change that I want to see. As opposed to I stop doing it right now. I stop trying right now, and change will still happen, and it's probably not change that you're going to like. And that's the unfortunate truth that we need to have a rational conversation with. So just because you failed, quote unquote failed, evaluate, is it actually a failure? The true definition of failure should be a lack of success yet. The success will come as long as you keep trying, as long as you learn to have the emotion and acknowledge its unfortunate feelings, but remind yourself that you're still on the right path, that you learned something about this situation. What if you could acknowledge that you learned something and you could take away and say, great, this gives me more wisdom, more ability to show up better in the future? You're not really a failure. Because when you fell off a bike, you tried to cut a curb too quickly. Or actually before you even were able to turn around the curb, you're trying to go downhill and you had no idea how to stop. You're just so excited to be on the bike and going. You didn't think ahead about, oh, there's a skill that involves stopping the bike. And so you fell. Lack of success. You didn't ride, you still fell off your bike. You rode for a little bit, but you fell off. Well, guess what? Now you got to ride. Now you get to remember brakes. Cool. Get back on the bike. Going down the hill, pull the brakes. You learned something. You made a mistake. You failed the previous time, but now you could take that failure and put it into your next attempt. Now you're more aware. Now you're more prepared. And now you can eventually you're going to keep it building. Now you're going to keep it rolling. You're going to take those little licks, those little cuts, those little bruises, and they're going to make you much more adaptable, much more capable while you're on your bike. Your bike is your life, your weight loss journey, whatever you're trying to accomplish. Take your licks, take your bruises, take it with you and say, great, what did I miss this last time that I can be more prepared for moving forward? And how will that set me up? And it's, again, I want this to be short because I want you to listen to this over and over and over again because you need to remind yourself of this over and over and over again because when you feel like a failure, the reminders are going to try and make you feel even worse. I want you to stop the cycle. I want you to stop the spiral before it happens by saying, it may not have gone the way that I hoped it did. It may not have worked out the way I hoped it did. But what can I take away? Can I acknowledge that I'm on the right path? And if I am, maybe I can keep going. Maybe I can keep going in the right direction. As long as I keep going, I'll figure out. I'll get to where I want to go. I'll figure it all out. It just may not be the way that I think it's supposed to. When you remember that, when you remind yourself of that over and over and over again, you're truly not a failure anymore. We're never truly failures. We may fail, right? A lack of success, but it's not indefinite. It's not definite, indefinite. Is that the same word? But it's not permanent. It should be the one. It's not permanent. Lack of success yet. What did I learn? What can I acknowledge that I learned? And can I use that in my next opportunity? I hope this helps. And I hope wherever you are, whatever you're trying to accomplish, I hope you hear this and I hope you remember that you deserve to be happy. You deserve to have what you want. And you're supposed to learn the hard way sometimes. And just because it didn't go the way that you think it's supposed to, doesn't mean that it won't happen. It just might mean you need to find a path for you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I need to hear this right now. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please share the show with at least one person. I would greatly appreciate it. Even if my ultimate goal is to help at least one person with these. And even if I never speak to you directly, I hope that I'm able to make even a small impact on your journey. And if you ever have any questions or need anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out to me. English is really hard. All my social media is linked down below. All right. So have a wonderful rest of your day. I appreciate you for listening. I'll see you on the next one.